What's up, guys? Rick here with your DFS preview for this week's Tour Championship. And very much like the match play, this is a unique situation for this week where there are a lot of different layers that we have to talk through. There's different strategy, different things that just a lot of stuff that's going on. So I will take you through the field, the golf course, and I will unveil the Tour Championship matrix that I show you every single year that shows you just how many guys can actually win this golf tournament. Why waste any more time? Let's jump right into it. All right, this is my website, RickRunGood.com. This is a giant database and tools for fantasy golf and golf betting. You should sign up for it. Okay, so the difference for this week is the structure. The season now culminates where we do not have any more FedEx Cup points, but based on your standing throughout the year, you are going to actually start with a score this week. That is the staggered start for this week. So for example, because he's in first, Scotty Scheffler is going to start this event at 10 under par. Okay? That's bonkers in our world, but it happens. Victor Hovland, second, is going to start at 8 under. Rory at 7 under. Jon Rahm at 6 under. Lucas Glover at 5 under. Then you're going to have 5 guys each starting at 4 under, 3 under, 2 under, 1 under, and even par. So that means, for example, Jordan Spieth is going to start before anybody hits a shot, 10 shots off the lead. So when you are talking about who can actually win this golf tournament, the number of names is very, very small. And I think one of the big mistakes that people make is this assumption that more guys can win than they actually can. I'll take you through a couple of examples there, but it would be incredibly difficult and one of the most historic performances ever if Colin Morikawa at 1 under par won this golf tournament. Okay. He'd have to beat the rest of the field by, well, not by 9 shots, depending on what happens ahead of him, but you get the point. So I'm going to run you through the scenarios of what it would take of who can actually win this golf tournament. From a DFS perspective, each golfer will start with the associated finishing position points. So that means Scotty Scheffler will have 30 finishing position points by starting in first when he hits his first shot on Thursday. Now, if he immediately makes a triple bogey and drops to second, his 30 points do not stay with him. They go down to 20. So it's just like you're already being ranked based on your finishing position points when the tournament starts. Now, the thing to remember is while that's valuable, you are not going to have the requisite number of birdies and pars and eagles to have gotten to that score. So they can fluctuate a little bit more and drop, a drop from 30 finishing position points to 20 is pretty significant. And it's only, 2 shots or 3 shots right out of the gate. So that will fluctuate, but guys will have those bonuses when the round begins, which leads. So that's the layer 1 here. Layer 2 is to unveil the matrix. The matrix is something that I've been putting together for the last couple of years. It is available. I don't know if I always made it available for download. I can't remember, but there's a button here on the cheat sheet that says download matrix, which you can download. And hopefully this year, I did it through Dropbox this year, so I'm hoping that it comes out in an Excel format instead of a CSV format. So I'm hoping that it has the conditional formatting and all that fun stuff. The matrix is critical this week. Bum, bum, bum. This is what it looks like. It's just like a Excel sheet on steroids with conditional formatting. So the way to look at this, the way that this matrix works is it tries to show you what type of performances are required for golfers to move up, move down positions. There are a couple of different tabs. Using data from the last 12 rounds, last 24, last 36, or last 100. You can go through which of those rounds that you want. I'm going to go with 36. It's just what I'll use for this. I like it the most. So you'll see that there are every single golfer is in here with what their starting score is going to be. And then there's these simulation numbers. Like, Rick, what in the world are we looking at here? Well, it's just a normal distribution. It's really not anything groundbreaking, but we're just applying it to golf here. So the way that this reads is I've loaded in every golfer's results over the last 36 rounds, and depending on what kind of performance you get out of them, can move them up and can move them down. So, for example, how do I want to show this first? I'm going to sort it by the starting position here, okay? So Scotty Scheffler will start obviously at 10 under par. Victor Hovland will start at 8 under. Rory McIlroy will start at 7 under par. The way that they end up playing will determine who wins. So Victor Hovland needs to be not only better than everybody else or guys that are below him, he needs to be 2 shots better than Scotty Scheffler because Scotty has a built-in advantage. So Victor needs to make up a couple of strokes here. In fact, he needs to make up actually like 5 strokes because Scotty Scheffler's average is much higher than his average is, right? So if every golfer played to their average, let's start there. If every golfer played to their average over 4 rounds, nobody plays above or below, the final scores would be Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Victor Hovland, Jon Rahm, Patrick Cantlay. Okay, that's how it would be. So essentially what would happen is Matt Fitzpatrick would drop down from 6th to 17th. You would see, Patrick Cantlay jump up a little bit. You would see Rory overtake Victor, right? Like there would be these little movements if every single golfer played to their average. Now, not every single golfer is going to play to their average. So that's why this the percentile finish comes into play. So let me give you an example of this. Let's say Victor Hovland has a 66th percentile finish. So, 50th percentile would be his average, down closer to 1 would be the worst, and closer to 100 would be like the best rounds he could ever play, the best event he could ever have. So let's say he has a 65th percentile performance and every other golfer plays to their average. If that is the case, Victor Hovland still does not win the Tour Championship. He would actually finish a half a shot behind Scotty Scheffler. So a 65th percentile result from Victor is good enough to erase most of the gap to Scotty Scheffler with his lead and his average, but not good enough. What does he have to do? Well, a 70th percentile finish would get him there. He would win by about a shot. So what is a 70th percentile finish? That is Victor Hovland gaining 13 strokes to the field. How often does Victor Hovland gain 13 strokes to the field? Well, he did it last week. He gained 14.4. He did it at Muirfield Village. He gained 13.18. He did it at the BMW Championship. He gained 16.7. And then he's got a couple of others where he's gained, 10, 12, etc. So this is certainly within the range of outcomes for Victor Hovland. He's done it twice in the last 7. He's done it 3 times in his last 9? 8? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 3 times in his last 9. So that's pretty reasonable to ask him to do this. So that is one path for Victor to get there. As an example. Now, let's say Victor plays to his average, but Scotty Scheffler has a really horrible event and he plays to his 25th percentile. Well, not only would Victor pass him, but Rory would pass him as well, and Scotty Scheffler would actually finish 4th, also behind Jon Rahm. So that is the idea here, okay? That there is going to be some level of ebbs and flows, good play, bad play, but with the strokes built in, we can kind of have an idea of where those finishes are going to be. Let's go down and show you the big example here. Sam Burns. Sam Burns needs to probably have, starting at even par, the greatest week of all weeks to win this golf tournament. Okay? So what happens if Sam Burns has a 65th percentile performance? Well, he's going to move from a tie for 26th to 20th. What if he has a 75th percentile? That gets him to 13th. 85th. That gets him to 5th. 95th only gets him to 2nd. 99th? Yeah, that's good enough to win. What about 96? No. 97? No. 98? Yes. Sam Burns would have to gain 18.3, I'm sorry, excuse me, he would have to gain 21.1 strokes to the field, and no one else could play above average for Sam Burns to win this. Is that conceivable? No, probably not. So Sam Burns, let's see, just to put this into perspective, again, you can go to the golfer profiles here and check this out. The best tournaments of Sam Burns' career, he's gained 16 strokes to the field. One was a Korn Ferry Tour event. One was the Valspar. If you go to the Holy Grail and just look at, PGA rounds or PGA tournaments, I should say, for however far back you want to go, there is probably, of all the guys in this field dating back 15 years, there's only 4 instances of someone gaining 21 strokes to the field or more. Actually, Jon Rahm withdrew after 3 rounds. That was dominant at the Memorial in 2020. So this is truly, it would be historic for Sam Burns, and it's very likely not in his range of outcomes. So hopefully that's a decent example to show you what I'm talking about here. And even if he did that, so even if Sam Burns was able to do this, if Scottie Scheffler just had a slightly better than average week, he would still win. So what am I getting at? Because, this is available for download. You can mess around with this all you want. What I'm getting at here is that there are a lot fewer golfers who can actually win this than you might want to believe. Scottie Scheffler can absolutely win it. Viktor Hovland can absolutely win it. Rory McIlroy, in fact, doesn't have to do all that much to win it. A 63rd, probably 64th percentile. 64th percentile performance from Rory McIlroy, while Viktor Hovland and Scottie Scheffler play to their averages, is good enough to win. He would edge out Scottie Scheffler by a hair here. So that would only ask Rory to gain 13 strokes to the field. Okay, Rory gaining 13 strokes to the field. How often does he do that? Well, pretty darn frequently, doesn't he? So let's flip this around and look at most recent. So 13 strokes to the field. Well, he hasn't gained less than 8.5 in any event dating back to the PGA Championship. He's gained 11 or more, 1, 2, 3, 4 times during that stretch, and he's gained 13 or more twice in his last 6 starts. So yes, it is certainly possible that Rory McIlroy can do this, obviously, and he is one of the guys who is very likely to win this. What does Jon Rahm need? Jon Rahm needs a pretty good performance, kind of like a 70th percentile performance. He needs to gain 14 strokes to the field. Lucas Glover, the shorter term you go, the better it's going to be for Glover. The longer term, the worse it's going to be. But you're starting to get to the edges of Lucas Glover's ability to come back and win this golf tournament from 5 shots behind. And obviously, even further, the further down you go, you are going to get into situations in which there's going to be too many guys to pass, right? So Lucas Glover certainly up there as being one of the guys, but his chances are fleeting. Can Cantlay get there? Cantlay needs a 75th or so percentile. No, probably even more than that. 77, 78, 78th percentile performance, which would be him gaining 16 strokes to the field. When's the last time Cantlay's done that? I think we're going to start to get pretty low on options here. He needs 16. He's done it 3 times in his career. He did it twice in 2021, and then he did it in 2019. 2 out of those 3 have come at the Memorial at Muirfield Village. So we are getting towards guys being unable to catch up here. So realistically, and I've done this every year, and I think I've been right every year. It's not that hard, but I was correct last year, pat on the back, that Rory was the furthest back that anybody could come because he had the firepower to pull it off. I think was he 6 back? Was he that far back? So here are the guys who I think can win this. Scottie Scheffler, Viktor Hovland, Rory McIlroy, Jon Rahm, maybe Patrick Cantlay, and maybe Lucas Glover. It is not a knock against the rest of these guys, but I just think with the star power at the top, even for Max Homa, who has a pretty, who has a super, like Wyndham Clark has a super high ceiling, right? Wyndham Clark would need an 85th percentile performance. And if any of these golfers above him, which would be gaining 18 strokes to the field, and if any golfer above him plays slightly better than average, it's still not good enough. So that's kind of the problem here. So I think there are 4 and then 2 halves. Scheffler, Hovland, Rory, Rahm, maybe Glover, maybe Cantlay. I think it would be very, very impressive, or a lot of things would have to happen for any of these other guys to actually win. The final thought before we get back to kind of the DFS thing here, the final thing that I've done is I've put the winning score over here on the right-hand side. So the winning score, basically, if the winning score is going to be 19 under, how often, or what is the likelihood that a golfer can get there? So if the winning score is 19 under par, Max Homa only gets there 10.8% of the time because he's starting at 4 under. He would have to get to 50, he'd have to get 15 under on his own ball. It's just so unlikely. 19 under par, Scottie Scheffler gets there over half the time. So it really does close the gap. And I think that's what the PGA Tour wants. They want one of these top 5 guys to win. And this format really, really does embrace that. Okay. So that's the idea here. You can mess around with this sheet. You can download it again. It's on the cheat sheet. You can download it. You can mess around with it. You can put anything in, but just realize there's only so many guys who can win. Now, for DFS purposes, though, getting these guys that move up, move around. I think one year was like Ches Reavie. I think Mackenzie Hughes did it one year. Some of these guys who are going to move from starting in a tie for 21st all the way up to finishing 7th. Like, those are going to be the guys that kind of break the slate a little bit, because they're going to have a higher percentage of birdies and eagles and things like that will help their scoring, and they're going to be a lot cheaper because they're being priced at their starting score, and then they're going to be able to grab some of those finishing position points as well. Xander Schauffele won, the shadow leaderboard one year and did not win the Tour Championship, but he was one of the highest fantasy scorers. So we're going to talk through the field as we normally do, but I did want to lay this matrix out for you, and you can go and mess around with all the possible combinations. All right, so let's get back on track here. A little bit of a normal show from here on out. So East Lake Golf Club, we've got a lot of great history around here. We play it every year. It's a difficult golf course. The model is a little bit all over the place. In fact, it doesn't love a lot of different stats. This, looks at the last, I think I've got like 12 years at least in here of data, and looks at the types of golfers and starts to build a profile. It loves driving accuracy and it loves approach play. I'm not sure if I actually agree with that, admittedly. And I think it's gotten weirder over the years because you only get 30 guys here. So it is a much smaller sample size. And now with the staggered start, I will admittedly not be putting as much weight on this model as I normally would because of those factors. Normally we have a field 5 times the size. Normally we have, guys starting at even par, right? Like it's just, this is going to be kind of a tough model, I think. It does love Colin Morikawa, Siwoo Kim, Russell Henley, Scottie Scheffler, and Lucas Glover. Just throwing that out there, but I'm not going to put too much weight into that. Because of the starting strokes, we are getting a wide range of salaries as we normally would. So Scottie Scheffler is the most expensive, $13,400, and then it goes all the way down to Nick Taylor at $5,000. So we get, again, that wide range of Tour Championship numbers. There was I think the first year they did this, Justin Thomas was like 15,500, like something outrageous. Right now they've dialed that back. DraftKings, that is, has dialed that back over the course of the last couple of years as they've started to figure this out. I think there was once an idea that, whoever starts at 10 under par cannot lose, and then it's gone to like, well, anybody can win, and I think we're probably somewhere in the middle. So the top of this board, we have to look at pricing. We've got to look at the way this sets up for things. The documentation of what Scottie Scheffler has been doing is stupid good, right? I mean, he is the best tee to green player in the world. It is not even close. He is trying to find enough of a putter to give himself a chance. Again, he went out and led the field in tee to green last week, lost 2 strokes putting, and did not win the BMW Championship. Essentially, what did you do? Lose by 2 shots? So there you go. Those 2 shots that he needed around Olympia Fields, and it's been basically the same story for 9 months. And now you get a situation where he spotted a 2-shot lead. He has been horrible with the flat stick at East Lake. I have to admit, I am a little bit concerned about this. I'm not sure there's a ton of value in playing Scottie from a fantasy perspective. you can get a $400 decrease, $400 discount down to Rory McIlroy, who has dominated at East Lake. Who knows he has to make up ground, who knows he's going to have to be firing out there. We'll see what the ownership numbers come in. We'll have those by the time we get to the live chat Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern on the Rick Run Good YouTube channel. But I'm very scared about a golfer who really struggles putting and has done nothing with the flat stick at East Lake in his 3 trips. When I send out my newsletter, either tomorrow on Tuesday or Wednesday, there's going to be a lot of really interesting Scottie Scheffler nuggets. It's going to show how amazing he's been from tee to green and how little he has gotten out of it with only 2 wins. That stuff is phenomenal. I cannot wait to put that together. RickRunGood.com/newsletter. There's a link in the description if you want to sign up for that. It's 100% free. The situation that is put together here makes me a little bit worried about Scottie and rostering him for fantasy purposes. Rory McIlroy is next. I probably don't need to show you this, but I will. Everybody at this field, and I could open it up to anybody in the world, at East Lake, they get basically lapped by Rory. Now, Rory's got in 36 rounds, the best strokes gained per round number, 1.4 over 36. 1.4 over 36. When you start getting that level of play over that many rounds, it starts to be elite course history, player course combo, doesn't matter where it is. Technically, there are 3 golfers better at East Lake than Rory McIlroy. Russell Henley, only 8 rounds. Max Homa, only 4 rounds. Xander Schauffele's kind of throwing his name into that category. He's the best, 1.8, but it's only 24 rounds. He has that win here, the Tour Championship, which that's the shadow leaderboard. He didn't get credit for whatever, but he has not finished outside the bottom or the top 7. And the advanced metrics are great here. But Rory is, I think there's this idea that he's struggling, right? Because he's not winning. But this is now 9 consecutive top 10 finishes, and he's going to start there this week. The thing that excites me about this is Rory has not been perfect often over the course of the last year, but he doesn't have to be. And he doesn't have to be perfect here. If he goes out and kind of does his normal thing, he's going to make up a lot of ground on the field. Okay. If I run this back, he's one of the big, and if everybody plays to their average, he's one of the bigger jumpers that we get, right? He jumps over Victor Hovland. He starts to close that gap on Scottie Scheffler. So he is somebody who has certainly the firepower to do it. And now he's being spotted strokes on a lot of the field. And it starts to turn into a 3, 4, 5, maybe 6-man race in which Rory McIlroy technically does not have to do as much to win. We talked about it. He has to gain maybe 11 strokes to the field. Or if the other thing is if Scottie Scheffler comes back to the field a little bit, and only if Scottie Scheffler only gains 7 strokes to the field, which is Victor Hovland's average over the last 36, Rory McIlroy only has to have a 50, that'll definitely do it, a 52nd percentile performance. That is the beauty of him being closer to the top. He doesn't have to be perfect, and not having to be perfect is really exciting for a guy who's been very, very good, but not perfect over the course of the last year. So that's $13,000 for Rory McIlroy. I'll be interested to see what people do with that. I'll be interested to see what people do with Victor Hovland. I mean, listen, we're getting a different tier of golf from Victor, right? We've been talking about this a lot. Hard golf courses are his jam. He's played at the Tour Championship 3 times, 20th, 5th, and 15th. Don't necessarily look at the finishing positions. Look at the strokes gained numbers. Was awesome in 2021. He gained 8 strokes on approach, has gained strokes ball striking every single time around East Lake. He is elevating his game on a near, weekly basis, and he has all the firepower in the world. So I'm going to kind of let ownership dictate what I do with the Rory Victor situation, but they're my 2 favorite in this range. They've got the firepower to win it. The gap on finishing position points is important, and I just think there's a lot to like there. Now you start to get into some concerns around Jon Rahm, right? So Rahm has had a really bad playoffs, right? He finished 37th in Memphis, 31st at Olympia Fields. He's lost strokes off the tee in consecutive events for the first time since 2019, which is not good. The ball striking numbers are not there in general. The putter has cooled off a little bit. And now he's got to make up. It's not actually a ton, considering how bad he played in the playoffs. He didn't drop all that much. But if you look at his tour championship stuff, he finished 15th here last year, losing. So he has lost on approach here in 2 straight years, and 3 of his 6. And he's probably in the worst form he's been with full swings in quite some time. So I'm a little bit worried about Jon Rahm. He's going to start at 6 under par, so he's going to be 4 shots off the lead. Then you get to kind of the best of the rest. Where they're starting or not, you kind of get like Homa, Cantlay, Xander. That's kind of the big 3 coming up with Matt Fitzpatrick rounding out the rest of this 10K range. I think my favorite is Cantlay here. He had just kind of like an okay Cantlay week last week, and he finished T15 at Olympia Fields, where he gained 5 strokes from tee to green, which is one of his worst in the last 10 or 12 or 15 events. So you expect him to kind of gain more from tee to green there, and he hasn't putted all that well, which that's kind of the concern. I need a lightning hot 5, 6, 7 strokes gained putting week out of Patrick Cantlay. What has he done at Eastlake? Not pretty. The year he actually won the whole thing, he lost a little less than a stroke with the flat stick, but he has never gained strokes putting at Eastlake. That is terrifying stuff. Now, he was still able to get it done in 2021 because he started that year at 10 under, right? I think he started that year at 10 under. He immediately gave it back like on the second hole, and then he won it after that, because that's when he would have won the BMW championship the week before. So I think he was already in first. So man, that is, a little bit concerning, I'll admit. So maybe he's not my favorite. I was probably expecting to see a little bit better stuff there. Xander's going to be incredibly popular. Let's look at Fitzy real quick, because he played horribly, and I want to see how sustainable what he did last week at Olympia Fields was. Boy. So he drove it better, but not good. His approach play was fine. Loved it. Around the green, okay, whatever. Gained 7.5 strokes putting, which is his best since, his best since a European Tour event in 2021. His best on the PGA Tour since RBC Heritage in 2021. So that, actually, no, further than that. It would be, has he ever done it on the PGA Tour? Yeah, 2020, WGC FedEx St. Jude. So that's got to come back to earth a little bit. He probably gains maybe 3 or 4 strokes with the putter. I'll be really interested to see what he can do with the driver here. If he can keep it in play, keep it in the fairway, I like his chances. But I think I'm paying for Rory, I'm paying for Victor. I don't know if I'll even have a lot of the rest of these guys, because I think it's going to be ownership. I think it's going to be still some concerns. I don't think I need to get to the rest of the 10K range, admittedly. As we get to that 9K range, so here's the last 36 rounds. Everybody in this field, raw strokes gained. Guys that are playing way above their salary. Tommy Fleetwood's at $8,800. He's gained 2 strokes per round, 4th best in this field. Brian Harman, $9,500. Brian Harman, the 7th best player in this field. If you go to the trends tool and start looking at who's playing over their head, Brian Harman's strokes gained trend is better than Jon Rahm's strokes gained trend. What does that mean? Well, it looks at what everybody's baseline is. It looks at how they're playing in the last 36 and assigns them a new strokes gained value. So Jon Rahm is playing like a golfer who gains 1.58 strokes per round, the same as Ricky Fowler, because he's playing below his baseline. Brian Harman is playing above his baseline and gets to 1.61 strokes gained per round, which is actually slightly better than Jon Rahm's is. So that's very encouraging. I want to go round by round here with Brian Harman, because I think it's worth it. Where are you, Brian? So let's do sort by salary so I can find these guys a little bit easier. Strokes gained per round. So he goes nuts and wins the Open Championship, which, by the way, one thing that I think has gotten lost in the Brian Harman steals a claret jug conversation is how good Brian Harman was and has been all year long. The 3 starts before the Open Championship, he went runner-up, 9th, and 12th, okay? He gained strokes to the field in every single round from the first round of the Travelers Championship to the 3rd round of the Scottish Open. That is 4, 8, that is 11 consecutive rounds. Then he wins the Open Championship. Then he has 1 bad round to start off in Memphis before he gains strokes to the field in 6 straight and finishes T5 at the BMW Championship. If this is a golf course that rewards accuracy, Brian Harman, which the model thinks it does, Brian Harman grades out really well. He is, look at this season that he's having, right? I mean, this is phenomenal stuff. Absolutely phenomenal stuff. Let's look at his tour championship stuff. You're going to hear a lot of narratives around, hey, he's a Georgia boy. He's played here last year. He lost a stroke and a half to the field. He played here in 2017. He lost 5.5. So it's not a lot of history. It's not a lot of good history. He's starting at 6 under. I could see Brian Harman being the guy that kind of leapfrogs up, right? You know, he's going to start in that group of guys at 4 under par. Can he pass Lucas Glover? Can he pass John Rahm? I don't know. Can he just be the best of the 4 under guys? Can he be better than Homa, better than Cantlay, better than Wyndham Clark, better than Matt Fitzpatrick? I kind of think he can. Homa's been good. I'll give him that. Cantlay's been horrible at Eastlake. Fitzpatrick's had 1 good week in the last 2 months. And Wyndham Clark is playing better, but has been all over the place. Brian Harman, if he can just be the best of the 4 unders, that's pretty valuable. So really like the way that Brian Harman is trending here. And we've seen him just catch fire and pile up a bunch of birdies. As much as I want to see him play well, I think the steam of Ricky Fowler might be running out a little. Maybe a long year has started to take its toll. He's now lost strokes off the tee in 2 straight after that being one of his weapons this year. He's lost putting in 2 straight after that being one of his weapons this year. The approach play was better at Olympia Fields, but even over the last 4, doesn't look anything like the season that he's had. These are the 4 worst results that he has had outside of the miscut at the PGA Championship, basically of the year. So we might just be getting a pretty tired, out of sync Ricky, who is, 1 start away from being able to take a quick breather before he presumably gets to go to the Ryder Cup. That's kind of a conversation for a different day, but that's a little bit worrisome. Here's Tommy Fleetwood starting at 3 under par. He's $8,800. If you looked, and I showed you this in the power rankings, last 36 rounds, Tommy Fleetwood was the 4th best player in this field. No trophies to show for it, right? But $8,800 is a steal. Let's see what Tommy has to do to get to the top. Unfortunately, he is starting at 7 back. He's starting at 3 under. So if Tommy has a 65th percentile performance, he can get up into 3rd if everybody else has an average week. Him gaining 12 strokes to the field is not a huge ask, right? 12 strokes to the field for Tommy Fleetwood feels like something he has done kind of recently. Yeah, he did it at LACC, he did it at Oakdale. He basically did it at Quail Hollow, and then he's been at 8 or 9 in 3 of his last 4 starts. So it's certainly within the range of outcomes. That would be nice. Tommy to go from 11th to 3rd or even 11th to 4th would be great past some of these guys. I think he could be someone who puts a lot of his hat into the ring for a lot of these optimal lineups. Are we just we're just going to quietly ignore Russell Henley? We're just going to quietly be mad at him for a Wyndham Championship that he should have won. That's where we're at right now, because he immediately comes back and finishes 6th at TPC Southwind. He immediately comes back and finishes 8th at the BMW Championship, doing basically exactly the same stuff every single week. Another Georgia narrative, right? He hasn't played here since 2017. Gained 7.5 strokes to the field. Gained 4 in 2014. It's a long time ago. I'm sure he plays Eastlake more frequently than that, right? He's from I think he lives in Columbus, Georgia. But this is such a good year. Just for kicks, let's do the last 8 rounds. So this is going to basically be like who has had the best playoffs, right? Playoffs. So last 8 rounds, let's just see for kicks where these guys show up. Viktor Hovland's number 1, no surprise. Rory number 2, Homa, Cantlay, Scheffler, Sungjae, Russell Henley. Wow. If we go 12 rounds, it's probably even better than that. He goes from 7th to 5th. I mean, there's a real path to like Henley, Harman being some real spoilers here. I don't know how much they'll be able to spoil, but love the way those games are trending. So the rest of this board, I mean, we could talk about every single player, but there's guys that I think are going to be obvious selections. Like Colin Morikawa, 7,700 will be pretty popular. Jordan Spieth at even par, 6,700 will be pretty popular. Terrell Hatton, 6,900 will be pretty popular. Sam Burns, he shot the course record that Victor broke like the next day, $6,100 will be pretty popular. What I would like to do from this range, and you'll see me do this in the model here in a second, but before I do that, I'm going to go to the power rankings and I'm going to go to the strokes gain distribution, because what I want to see are golfers with upside here, right? Because what I need these guys to do is jump from a tie for 21st to 8th. I need something like that, okay? So I need upside. And I also like it because, you know, there is kind of, I think there's a little bit of freewheeling that these guys get to do. There's no other tournament they have to qualify for next week. They have to go pedal to the metal and they got to go nuts. Show me some upside. So what I'll do here is I'm just going to sort this by strokes gained, five or more strokes gained to the field, how frequently guys are doing that, and start looking for some cheap guys here. Jason Day, I'm doing 100 rounds might be way too many. Let's do 40 rounds. All right. I mean, 100, that's a lot. So of the cheapies, Terrell Hatton, 12 and a half of his last 40 rounds, he's gained 5 or more strokes to the field. Which I guess is just, well, 1 or 4 would be 10%. So like 5 out of 40. Jason Day is still on here, actually, believe it or not. His floor is much lower than Terrell Hatton's is, but his ceiling is just as high. Sepp Straka. So this is what I was kind of looking for. Sepp Straka, very low floor. He only gains strokes to the field 57% of the time, one of the lowest rates that we have in this field. But he gains 5 or more 10% of the time, one of the highest rates we have in this field. Emiliano Grillo, same thing. Low floor, high ceiling. These would be the guys I would be targeting because they're going to have to make a big move. So Grillo, Straka, I think are interesting. Siwoo, you ever see him go nuts? He rated out, I think, number 1 or number 2 in the key stats model. I think he's back to using the broomstick too. He put it on timeout for an event. I think he's back to using that. The guy's all over the place. Let's see what the model has to say. So RickRunGood custom model. We're going to have to get a little creative here. So what we will do is we will apply, I want to do our own little strokes gain. So let's do, and I'll tell you what, I think what I'm really seeing are guys that are either tired, cooked, whatever, or guys that are finding their stride. I want to keep this pretty short term. So let's say strokes gained off the tee last 12 for 15. Strokes gained approach last 12. Let's just do 12 for 20. Around the green for 12, 10, and putting last 12. Let's just do 12, I guess, for 10. Then what I want to do is I want to get strokes gain distribution. I want upside. So I'm going to put 5 on strokes gain 3 or more, 8 on strokes gain 4 or more, and 8 on strokes gain 5 or more. So I've got 24 weights remaining. Course history, I think, is important. Eastlake is pretty sticky. Let's put 15 on Eastlake. Let us then also we could do like hard golf courses. Excuse me. Or we could do, I guess birdies are better gained would probably be the place to go here. Or fantasy points gained. Or I could just put them both. Okay. So my number 1 golfer is, Rory McIlroy. Scotty 2, Xander 3, Victor 4. Look who's 5. Russell Henley is 5. I'm telling you, I just like, I know he's a dork or whatever, right? And I know he doesn't do anything sexy, but his stats are unreal. Fleetwood is 6th, Rahm 7, Sungjae 8, Homa 9, Cantlay 10. Just trying to see if there's any other movers. Brian Harman does not grade well in this one, actually. Matt Fitzpatrick does not grade well in this. Nick Taylor is my last golfer, by the way, and he's the cheapest, so I guess that kind of makes sense. But wow, okay, fun stuff. It's such an interesting week, right? Like I get my kicks out of trying to figure out the math. This matrix is available to you. You can just download it off the cheat sheet, mess around with it all you want. It's a cool way to look at things. It's like golf in a spreadsheet. What more could I ask for? Sign up for RickRunGood.com. Sign up for the newsletter. The newsletter is 100% free. Links for everything you need is in the description. Best of luck this week. I'll talk to you guys soon.